Good evening and welcome in. No, this is not a test. Do not adjust your dial. Usually you're here at 7:30 a.m. for a little bit of thunder with me, Mitch Nelles, and oftentimes watching my good friend Joey B is in the house. Well, tonight we're flipping the script. We're turning the tables, and I am on Joey B's Utopian Baseball Universe season preview. We are previewing, you know it, I'm wearing it, he's wearing it, the Boston Red Sox. And with no further ado, ladies and gentlemen, here is Joey Buckholtz.
Thanks for that awesome introduction and great dance.
Thank you.
I do apologize if anyone else is echoing. I don't know what to do about that, but Mitch sounds perfect. And we're going to get started tonight. Mitch is actually from the Boston area, correct?
True story. Born and raised in Boston. So
Mitch, I'm going to get your earliest Red Sox memories before you came to Milwaukee.
Absolutely. So I lived in Boston until I was 14. My dad lived in the Boston area his entire life. So even after I moved to Milwaukee, I still kept visiting the Boston area. One of my first ever memories, and I don't remember it very well because I was 4 or 5 years old. I remember Dave Stapleton was the first baseman for the Red Sox back in the early 80s and mid 80s. He actually became famous in 86. He was the guy the Red Sox always brought in at end of games as a defensive replacement for Bill Buckner. And then, of course, they didn't do that in Game 6 in the 86 World Series because McNamara wanted Buckner on the field when the Red Sox won the World Series. Joey, we all know how that one went, right?
We do.
No comment. But I vividly remember Dave Stapleton doing something. So vividly, I vividly remember. I have no idea what it was, but I remember leaving early as an early Red Sox fan, leaving Fenway, and everyone was really excited about Dave Stapleton. Now, I think this must have been 81, maybe 80, and I think the thought at that time was that Dave Stapleton was going to be, a really great player. Those were the expectations for him at that point. By the time he got to 86, he was really just a journeyman and a backup. But I think at 81, he was still the assumption was that. And so that's what I remember. I mean, I remember Jim Rice and Tony Armas and Dwight Evans as the outfields. I don't remember Fred Lynn, but I remember Rice and Evans and Tony Armas in center. I remember Wade Boggs as a rookie, coming up, and I remember Jerry Remy, and then and Marty Barrett was one. I mean, so Marty Barrett lived in my hometown, Framingham, and he was one of my all-time favorites. And he had an amazing 86 playoffs. He was the ALCS MVP, I believe. And I remember later that year, like that winter, he came and spoke at my synagogue. And I'm like this 10-year-old kid. And it's like Marty Barrett's coming to speak, or maybe I was 11 by then. Marty Barrett, it was so cool. So, and then of course through the Grady Little and Pedro years, I mean the World Series. I'm sorry, not the World Series, the All-Star game in Boston, where Pedro just went nuts and Ted Williams got rolled out and he was there. I remember watching Yaz's final game at Fenway, where he literally took a victory lap around the entire stadium and high-fived people in left field. He kept trying to get higher and higher up that side wall as he was high-fiving people. So just even when I moved to Milwaukee and became a big Brewers fan, I never lost my first love, and that was the Boston Red Sox.
So we have that in common with both baseball polygamists. You're a Red Sox Brewers fan. I'm a Milwaukee native who loves the Mets.
Yep.
So at some point, I just think it makes sense. You and I sat down and watched these series together. We
would have to Mystery Science 3000 it, right? Like we would have to have running commentary while it's going on. because I can't just sit there and watch because it would break my heart again. As many years, what is it? 86, so 35 years later, it still breaks my heart.
I think that's the only way to do it. Go MSTK, put the game on, have people watch us watch baseball.
I love it. I think that's great. I think that's what we need to do.
All right, sounds good. Now, what was the year again that you moved to Milwaukee?
I moved in 90. So in between 8th grade and freshman year, I went to Nicolay High School. And in between 8th grade and freshman year, my mom was born here. My grandparents were born here. So I have serious Wisconsin roots. My dad's whole side of the family was from Boston. And they actually met in Worcester, and lived outside of Boston. My mom and I lived in Framingham. My dad lived in the city proper. And I moved to Glendale, and now I live in Whitefish Bay.
Now, tell me what it was like. So in 90, you would have been about 14?
That is correct. I was 14, yep.
How did your friends treat you, sticking with your Red Sox roots, but also starting to be a Brewers fan? How was that like? Did you have any friends that were like, hey, you got to choose one or the other? Does that happen to me?
I never really had people say I had to choose one or the other until I got into sports radio. Until I was on the air in Milwaukee, and people were like, how can you be a Red Sox fan and a Brewers fan? You have to choose one. And I'll still, and just like you will argue with people about Brewers and Mets, I'll argue with people about Brewers and Red Sox for hours and hours and hours. And I feel like we have, everybody's situation's different. And everybody, but I do remember, I want to say it was probably 92. So I want to say it was toward the end of my sophomore year in high school. One of my Boston buddies came to visit for his spring break. So April, March, whatever it was. It had to have been April, actually, because the Red Sox were playing at the Brewers. Remember, the Brewers were still in the American League at that time. And we got really good tickets. And we made a sign, like something about, like, hello, everybody on Channel 38 WSBK, which was what the Red Sox were on Channel 38 back then. Sean McDonough doing the play-by-play.
Nice.
As a young pup. He did. I grew up with Sean McDonough as the play-by-play voice of the Red Sox on local TV. And we made a sign, and we didn't have cell phones then. We didn't have email then. But I got home, and there were calls on the answering machine that, like, friends of ours in Boston got, people we'd grown up with, gone to elementary school with, gone to summer camp with, said, oh, we saw you on TV in Milwaukee. How cool is that? So that was pretty sweet.
Do you have a favorite memory of I guess, being a Brewer fan since you lived here in Milwaukee?
Just like a Brewer fan in general?
Yeah, just like either County Stadium or the recent success we've had.
It's easy to say the NLCS against the Dodgers 2 years ago, like Brandon Woodruff's home run. Like when Woody came up and homered off Kershaw, that was unbelievable, right? Like that was one of the coolest moments I've ever been in the stadium as a fan for, because I was at the game. Didn't Weeks and Fielder homer in the same? Didn't they have home runs? So I was at that game as media. Yeah. So I was as media. So I wasn't a fan, so I wasn't cheering. I got to cheer the Woodruff home run. But I'll tell you, you know what it was? It was the summer of '92. Like I still think about, and I've been to tons of games. I was at the game. I was at the Brewers Diamondbacks game, not the Niger Morgan Carlos Gomez game, but it was a different game. And that was the same day. It was Nebraska's first ever Big Ten game ever at Camp Randall. The Brewers Diamondbacks was a day game, and the Badgers Nebraska game was a night game. And I did the doubleheader. I think I left the Brewers game in the 7th inning, and I got to the Badger game on time, and I left at halftime because the Badgers were up 35-0 or whatever. It was amazing. So that, like, great doubleheaders like that. Like I've done a Brewers doubleheader with the White Sox where, like, I went to a Brewers game during the day, and then I drove down to Chicago and went to a White Sox game. But I will say it's got to be the summer of '92. The summer of '92, I was home. I don't even know what I was doing. I had to have had jobs because I had jobs every summer my entire life. But I don't even know what I was doing. I think I was working at Kohl's food store. And me and my buddies went to every game. I mean, I am probably low in my estimate that I went to 40 of the 81 home games. I'll bet I went to more like 50 or 60. No season tickets. I mean, we would just buy the cheapest ticket. We drive up the day of. And I remember I didn't go to the final game of the year. I got tickets to every game. I mean, I went to, I really think I went to 50, 60 games. And finally, the final game of the year, they got eliminated the second to last day, whatever it was, against when, in Toronto clinched.
Yeah.
And they finally sold out. They didn't sell out any of August. They didn't sell out any of September. And finally, they sell out like the final game, like people show up and applaud them. And so I didn't get to go to the last game of the year to give them that send off. But I was at like I said, between 50 and 60 games. I remember opening day against the Rangers in the mid 90s when it was snowing, and the Rangers walked off the field, and it was a baseball giveaway day, and we all threw our baseballs onto the field at the Rangers. That was awesome. I mean, that was a lot of fun. I was way up in the upper deck. I had friends who did. I don't think I did.
All right. So tell me about your entry into the world of radio.
So I went to Madison and I majored in journalism. And I thought I'd get into writing. My first full-time job after college was at the Ozaki Press, which is the local newspaper that kind of covers like Grafton, Port Washington, Fredonia, Cedar Grove, Belgium. I covered the 4 high schools up there. And then a couple of years later, a guy I knew in Madison, Craig Karmazin, who ran the sports station in Madison, bought a station in Milwaukee. And I was working at Time Warner Cable at the time, and I wanted to get back into sports, and so he offered me a job. So, as I like to say, I mean, I was with Good Karma and with ESPN for just about 10 years. I was with iHeartMedia for about 5 years. What I like to tell people is I was an intern for 1510 Sports Radio Double Play, 1510 Waukesha, 1550 Lake Geneva. If anybody remembers the early days of sports radio in Milwaukee, the Sports Radio Double Play,
Scott Abley.
Yep, Scott Abley and Bill Johnson and Tom Kirsten and Matt Marchese and the Gangster of Love, John Babalola. I mean, I could go on and on. It was awesome. And so then when I went to go work for Good Karma, it was ESPN 1510. I was there the first night that we were 1510 days, 1290 nights, because 1510 was a daylight signal only. So I was actually at the 1290 studios on January 1st, 2005, running the board for Michigan, Texas, the Rose Bowl of Michigan. So not the Texas USC game a year later. It was the Michigan, Texas the year before that. So I was there the first night. We were 1290 nights. I was on air the first night, 540, flipped to ESPN. I was there from day one. And then I went over to iHeart, and I had the first Milwaukee-based sports radio show on the Big 920, which it was then on 920 a.m. I had a show from 1 to 2 p.m., and then it expanded 1 to 3 p.m. And then I was on the air the first day we flipped to FM, to 97.3 The Game. I was on the air with Ted Davis and Dan Needles, TNT, Ted Needles and Thunder. And we had a midday show there. So I've been a number of places. I've done a lot of sports radio. I've had my own show. I've been partners with, as we know, Steve the Homer True, with Ted Davis, with Dan Needles, with Armin Sarian, and others. And it's been a blast. I mean, I love sports radio. I love where it is right now. I love where it's been. I'm interested to see where it's going to take us as well.
Well, I speak for many that are watching tonight that want to tell you we miss you. We love having you. I listen to you every morning at 7:30 for a little bit of thunder.
Yep.
And who knows? I might connect you your own show on the Bullpen Network.
I appreciate that, and I miss it. I'll be honest, I miss it too. And you never know. One day I might be back. I might not be. I don't know. But right now, I do see that some people are commenting, and And it's nice to see the comments, nice to see everything going on and what people are talking about and on Facebook. And it's fun to be part of the Utopian baseball universe, honestly. And, I feel like I was one of the I wasn't one of the first. Hold on, I gotta mute that. Yeah, I wasn't one of the first, but I feel like I was pretty early, and I got to, I think it's something special.
I still consider you a founding member because, in those first 2 to 4 weeks, we had like 5 guys. So your grandfather is a founding member.
I appreciate that. Yeah, so it's fun to be here, and it's fun. As we get to the Red Sox, you'll see. Let's say I brought some things along. I brought some props. So I have, and it's funny because I have a different piece of clothing from the 4 World Series wins. So the 2004 win, I have the long sleeve T-shirt.
Nice.
2007, I have the fleece. 2013, I have the sweatshirt. And 2018, I have just the simple T-shirt. So I had to get one. I got one thing, and I actually have the Red Sox World Series. I should have brought this. I have the Red Sox World Series pin from '86. It doesn't say World Series. I mean, it just says World Series, and it has the Red Sox logo on it. So I do have the World Series pin from '86.
Sweet. Now you were at Game 4 in St. Louis.
Absolutely.
Tell us about that.
So I that came together. I'd been working at Time Warner Cable, and I got let go in August. And so I was looking for my next thing, and that's when I ended up in January starting with ESPN and Good Karma. So it's October, and I didn't have a job, and I was hanging out, and I was in New York for Game 1 with some buddies, and we flew back the next day, and we got back, and I said to my wife, if the series goes back to Boston, I'm just gonna fly back out to Boston. I'm gonna go back out. She wasn't my wife at the time; she was my girlfriend. And I said, I'm just gonna go out to Boston and be part of it and like soak it all in. Tickets were going. It was $3,000 to get into Fenway, so I wasn't going to the game, but I wanted to be there. I wanted to be in Boston. I wanted to be around Fenway. And when Pedro won Game 3. I remember I was at Landmark Lanes. Landmark Lanes down on Farwell on the east side.
Yep.
So I was at Landmark Lanes with somebody. We were having off-season softball practice, which we called it off-season softball practice as an excuse to get together and drink. And I thought to myself, Game 4 is tomorrow night in St. Louis, and Game 5 is in St. Louis also. St. Louis is a lot closer to Boston, and it's a lot cheaper to drive to St. Louis than to fly to Boston. They're up 3-0. I'm going to get in the car. So I woke up the next morning. I picked up my buddy Steven, who lived in Chicago at the time, and we drove down to St. Louis. We parked in some parking lot at like 3 p.m. Within 5 minutes, I had bought 2 standing room only tickets for $750 total. So think about like $3,000 to get in at Fenway and $750 total for 2 tickets to get into St. Louis. So we had standing room only. And so we were on the upper deck and in our assigned areas, and we watched the whole game. And Trod Nixon came up big, and the Sox won, and I was there. And I remember the game ended, and so in 2004, I would have been 28. So my dad was 58. My dad never in his life thought he'd see the Red Sox win the World Series. He's 58 years old, born and raised in Boston, wicked hardcore Boston fan. And I had a cell phone, and I'm getting all these texts. I picked up the phone and I called my dad, and I could just like hear the emotion, and like he was the only person I wanted to talk to. So we finished the phone call, and I just I didn't even look at my phone. I just put the phone in my pocket because I knew I was getting texts. I knew I was getting calls, and I didn't care. Like I just wanted to talk to my dad, and then I was done, and then I wanted to enjoy the moment.
So what was when Renteria bounced up there, and you knew it was over? Just walk me through that moment.
Seeing Folky out there on the mound, and it just you knew it was coming. I mean, they were up and they were going to win, and you still thought they were going to blow it somehow. You know, going through 86 years, they just think like, how are they going to screw it up? How is this going to be another chapter in the Red Sox lore of just like totally screwing things up and being a mess? And I just they got it done. I mean, it was just like pure euphoria, just relief. I mean, tons of relief, tons of happiness, and just a warm glow of contentment. Can I say a warm glow of contentment? It was a warm glow of contentment. That's what it was.
Now tell me how you mentioned that you were at the time. Your then girlfriend. Tell me about her first game.
Oh, so this is a great story. So she hadn't been to a game, and I want to say it was 2016, might have been 2006, might have been 2007. I'd have to look that up. It was a Friday in August, and we were meeting some friends in Maine. Some of my buddies and I, every year we used to spend a weekend in Maine, just like, you know, eating shellfish, hanging out on the beach, doing our thing. We've been doing that since we were like 14, 15 years old. So we were all meeting. So the Red Sox had like a day game on a Friday. I don't know if it was a makeup or what it was, but I remember John Lackey was pitching for the Angels at the time. It was before he came to the Red Sox. So, yeah, so I don't know what year. So it was 06, 07, one of those years. Anyway, it's Friday, whatever, August 16th, August 18th. I could look it up because it was Dustin Pedroia's birthday. So the Red Sox are up like 5-1, 5-2. It's the bottom of the eighth, and Pedroia hits a home run. And the place goes nuts. Everybody knows it's his birthday. And as he like rounds third, the whole crowd starts singing happy birthday. And it was just like so cool. And it's like, you know, the Red Sox weren't this like hated evil empire yet. I mean, they'd won the World Series in 04, but they hadn't won in 07 yet. They hadn't won two more after that. They were still, you know, they'd won one. So they were still viewed, you know, oh, they were the lovable losers and they finally got over the hump. But like they were still well liked around the country. And it was just one of those special moments. And it was like, even my wife, my wife's a big sports fan. And I made the mistake. You'll love this, Joey. We went into the store before the game. We went into the store and I bought her a pink shirt. Now, my mom's a breast cancer survivor. So like when I buy a pink shirt, I don't buy pink shirts because it's a girl thing. I buy because money goes to breast cancer, and the Red Sox do so many amazing things with the Jimmy Fund, and just like all the teams in Wisconsin do with the Mac Fund. In Boston, it's called the Jimmy Fund, and it's like the Red Sox do their radiothon every year. Like it's amazing. So I bought her a pink shirt. Maybe she wore it once, maybe never. She's not a pink shirt kind of girl, Joey. And when you meet her, you'll find that out right away. She is a hardcore sports fan. She doesn't mess around. She loves her sports. She wanted a real shirt, you know? And so she never wore that shirt, but she cheered for Dustin. She cheered for Petey. She cheered for the Sox. And it was just a lot. It was a great game to be at.
And if I understand correctly,
she is a Braves fan. So she is from Eastern Tennessee. So 2.5 hours to Atlanta, maybe a little less. Her dad grew up in Atlanta, a Braves fan. Like her dad has stories of skipping school to go watch Sandy Koufax pitch against the Braves, you know, stuff like that. He's got some cool stories. But yeah, she grew up. I mean, she is still a hardcore. I mean, Freddie Freeman's her favorite. I don't think she loved Brian McCann before he went to the evil empire. She loved Jeff Francoeur back in the day. Before that, she loved. I'm trying to think. There was a catcher. Javi Lopez. Lopez was her all-time favorite, I think. So she's like, I mean, she like when Sid Bream slid across home plate, she cried, like, you know, all that good stuff. So she's a big Braves fan. So, but she's also a Brewers and a Red Sox fan now. So we have a lot. You know, I wouldn't say we're a triligamist, but we got a lot going on in our family.
Did she watch every inning of Red Championship last year?
She did not. She did not watch every game in the Utopian baseball universe, but she watched a lot of it, and she knows all about it because I talk about it. But She was very excited about the World Series. She was very happy that the Braves won. Obviously a huge Hank Aaron fan, and he will be missed. I am one of my another fond memory I have at Miller Park just a few years ago. Bud Selig hosted an event where Hank Aaron was there, and because I was in sports media at the time, I got 2 tickets, and I took my mom. And remember, my mom grew up in Milwaukee, so my mom grew up a Braves fan. My mom grew up a Hank Aaron fan, and so for her to get to see Hank Aaron at an event, I don't know, 5 years ago or whenever it was like, I'm just so glad I got to share that with my mom.
Very cool.
Very cool.
So this is the part of the show where I guess tell me where you go wrong with Utopian roster.
I love it.
And Mitch hasn't yet. So this is going to be a surprise. But before we get the actual roster, let's give fans a little bit of a schedule teaser.
Okay.
So I'll put this up right now. The Red Sox are opening at home against Kansas City. Memorial Day at Baltimore.
Okay.
Independent versus the Padres.
Okay.
Labor Day at Yankee. And finishing at home against the Nationals.
Hey, Joey, can you hear me?
I can hear you great.
Okay, I put my headphones in. I'm wondering if that's going to fix the echo.
Echo's gone.
Okay, this doesn't always work. So if you all of a sudden lose me, let me know, because my headphones don't always work. But if they're working right now, the echo is gone.
The echo is gone. Let's just start over. I'm kidding.
I love it. But we're good. But I figured you're talking more than I am now. Like, I did a lot of talking. Now you're talking. So I was going to see if this worked.
Yeah, perfect. All right. So let's get to this roster. Now, one of the things that comes up a lot, and especially with a team like the Red Sox, Dodgers, Yankees, is that it's so hard to create these rosters. It's also hard to choose who is going to manage this team.
Ooh,
so
by the way, Bill Johnson says that fixed it, and Andrew Pfeffer, our buddy, says the earbuds get his vote for UBU MVP.
I second that unanimously.
Nice.
So the manager of this Red Sox team that took the Red Sox to the Eastern Division Championship last year is Joe Cronin.
Wow, that's in the Wayback Machine.
That goes way back, because I have Terry Francona managing Cleveland.
Okay, interesting.
And
you have Francona managing Cleveland, and not anyone from the mid-90s.
Only because of the recent history, I guess. Getting to the World Series in 2016, still being there now.
Yeah.
And I did want to have a mix of, Hall of Fame managers, favorites, and current guys.
Okay, that makes sense.
That's why I went with Cronin for the Red Sox, because he's a Hall of Famer, obviously.
For sure.
And because Francona's in Cleveland, and it wasn't great timing to make Alex Rehos the manager in Boston, because I think he was let go right before we started last year.
Alex Cora,
I'm sorry.
Yes. No, you're right.
Yeah.
And I love Alex Cora, but I would not have had Alex Cora.
It just, the timing was weird. But anyway, Joe Cronin, like all the managers do in the Utopian baseball universe, has my cell phone number. And he called me earlier today with the opening day starting lineup.
Oh boy!
And again, this is where this is my favorite part, because I'm going to give it to the world, and you're going to hear it, and then you're going to tell me where we messed up here.
Okay.
This is the opening day lineup at home against the Royals. Leading off and playing third base, Wade Boggs.
Sure.
Batting second and playing second base, Dustin Pedroia.
Yep.
Batting third and playing left field, Ted Williams.
Yep.
Now, just like our Cardinal show on Sunday, this is a left field factory in Boston, so there's going to be a little bit of
there's got to be
place here. But cleanup hitter, right fielder Manny Ramirez. Batting fifth, first baseman David Ortiz.
Because there's no DH. Let's make sure people know why. Because there's no DH in the UBU.
There is no DH in the Utopian baseball universe. Pitchers learn how to hit, and they hit like they did in Little League and college and the 40s and 50s and 60s and so on.
That's right.
Now, these are words that have never been said. Batting sixth, center fielder, Carl Yastrzemski.
Yeah. I knew it. I knew it was coming.
We've had this conversation.
Yep.
Batting seventh, catcher Jason Varitek. Batting eighth, shortstop Xander Bogaerts.
Okay.
And then, now this is solely based on how dominant he was last year. Starting pitcher on opening day for the Red Sox in 2021 is going to be Smokey Joe Wood.
I knew that was coming.
He was 17-5 last year. He led the league in strikeouts. He was probably one of the top 3 pitchers last year in the Utopian. So he's going to get the opening day start. But the rest of this rotation is so stacked. This is a team that was 5th in pitching last year, 6th in hitting. Let's look at the rest of the staff.
Okay.
Pedro Martinez going Saturday against Kansas City.
Yep.
Cronin's going with Louis Tiant in Game 3 because the Cardinals come to Fenway Monday, and he wants to go Roger Clemens, John Lester, and then Smokey Joe Wood again against the Cardinals. So Wood, Martinez, Tiant, Clemens against the Cardinals, John Lester in the 5, Smokey Joe Wood his second start of the year. And then just like last year, each team has a couple of starters just kind of waiting, see what happens. This year, Clay Buckholtz and Bruce Hurst.
Okay.
I had to get Buckholtz because, the name, the family name.
I know. There's nepotism there.
There's
right. So here's my first issue with you.
All right.
I don't disagree with anything you said about Smokey Joe Wood. But you know about Pedro's fragile mental strength when it comes to snubs. Some people like Aaron Rodgers have a chip on their shoulder and perform better. Some people like Pedro Martinez perform worse when they have a chip on their shoulder, when they think they're being disrespected, when aren't feeling the love the way they should. So I don't disagree, and I know that Smokey Joe Wood had a great year last year. I noticed that. I followed that. He was awesome. But I might have Pedro as my opening day pitcher just to play to his emotions because he's so built on that emotional strength.
We'll have to see how it pans out because I don't disagree with anything you're saying.
Yeah.
Now, remember, this is a Joe Cronin decision, not a Joey Buckholtz decision.
Then I think we have to go through some rosters to figure out who's where. I'm assuming Fred Lynn's on the Angels.
Should we get to the bench first and then we can address that?
Sure. Yeah. Let's get to let's do that.
So the rest of the position players for the Red Sox, we've got Christian Vasquez catching, Mo Vaughn, Bobby Dorr, Rafael Devers, Nomar,
okay,
Jim Rice, Tony Conigliaro, again, little family plug there.
In Boston, we say Conigliaro. Just so you know, in Boston, we say Conigliaro.
Yes. So it's for people watching tonight, and I have a lot of new Red Sox fans. That's my mother's maiden name. And he was a second cousin of my grandfather. And there's 3 different ways that name is pronounced. On the East Coast, it's Conigliaro. In Wisconsin, they actually say Conigliaro. But in Italy, it's Conigliaro, silent G.
I like it.
And I grew up in a Sicilian household, so I have always thought of it as Conigliaro, but it's not wrong. I always just say spell it right.
So who'd you have after Tony C? I missed the last one.
Dom DiMaggio.
Ooh.
Now,
okay.
I know what people are thinking. Red Sox fans are saying, where's Dwight Evans?
Yep.
Building this Red Sox roster was so hard. Dwight Evans is in the universe. Dwight Evans is one of the stars of the Durham Bulls expansion franchise. Could he end up with the Red Sox at some point? I mean, who knows? Let's get through year 2, and then we can talk about that. But let's get to the bullpen, and then I want you to give me your point that you were going to make.
Okay.
The bullpen, Jonathan Papelbon.
Yep.
From the Negro Leagues, Hall of Famer Jose Mendez.
Yep.
Keith Folk. Koji Uehara. Bob Stanley. Dick Raditz. And Scott Williamson.
Scott Williamson.
Now, again, this is not the 30 best Red Sox ever. This is a equal mix of greats, favorites, and current players. And I know for a fact I made mistakes last year in bullpens. I didn't research it enough. And that's why Raditz joins this year. This is why they have Jose Mendez as a expansion free agent, if you will. But tell me the obvious omissions. First,
I'm going to read some comments, if that's okay.
Yes.
Bill Johnson says no Rice or Lynn, and that was when you did the starting lineup.
Okay.
He also wants to know about Louis Aparicio. RJ says Yaz actually had 588 career plate appearances in the 6th spot, so 6 isn't terrible. Andrew says prime Mike Greenwell was a beast in the batter's box as well.
Correct.
Bill's very excited about El Tiante, and RJ says that he was one of the best. Bill says another snub of the Spaceman. I'm starting to think the UBU doesn't like stoners. Tim wants to know about Oil Cam Boyd. And Tim says, Tim has an aside. He says, hearing the story about driving to St. Louis for Game 4 reminded me of my late cousin. He drove from New York to Boston through the night to be in Boston to celebrate. Thank you. So that's absolutely right. All right. So I got a bunch of questions. First of all, love Veritek, but how weak have the Red Sox? I mean, for a franchise that's been around since the 1800s, how weak is the catcher position in Boston that, Carlton Fisk should be the one who's here, but obviously Carlton Fisk is on the White Sox.
Yep.
But he was the best Red Sox catcher ever, I would say. Veritek, and I love Veritek. I mean, he's one of my. I mean, what a gamer. I would have Nomar starting over Xander. And I almost would put. I like the starting lineup, but I would think about Nomar leading off.
Okay.
Because when he was a rookie, he led off a little bit in his career, and he was a beast when he led off. So I would think about Nomar leading at short, leading off. Bobby Dorr, Dustin Pedroia is a tough one. I mean, you know me, I love Petey, but that's a toss-up. I mean, those guys almost want to split time. And then I'm thinking, how are you going to get Jim Rice's bat in there? How are you going to get a home run champion? When he was at his best, he might have been better than Yaz or as good as Yaz. So I wonder, you can't take Manny out and you can't take Ted Williams out. So it's really like Jim Rice and Yaz who might have a little platoon there. But there's so many. All right. So here's the question.
Yeah.
And, you're talking about current guys, and I know you play with the rosters a little bit. I mean, Mookie Betts spent way more time on the Red Sox than he has on the Dodgers. But I assume you have him on the Dodgers because Mookie Betts would be on this team.
Correct. So Mookie Betts was, and I remember this like it was yesterday, he was one of the last decisions I made. And the only reason Betts didn't make the Red Sox and made the Dodgers was I just felt the Red Sox had a way deeper outfield.
Mm-hmm.
So I just figured it was easier for Betts because I don't think he plays over Ted Williams. I'm not sure if he plays over Yaz. And Manny's probably the second or third best right-handed hitter I've seen live.
Right.
So I just figured Betts, being a current superstar, was going to be more of a factor with the Dodgers than on this Red Sox team.
One thing I would say, based on how this is all playing out, and that Yaz is having to play center, and now we're talking about a young Yaz. We're talking about a triple crown winner Yaz, like in the late 60s. I still think DiMaggio's got to come in as a defensive replacement almost every game. Because, I mean, you talk about one of the most unheralded, underrated center fielders of all time. Don DiMaggio has to be at the top of that list. And I know who his brother is, so I know that. But Dom was a great player, and I would have him almost as, I don't see where Tony C's getting at bats on this team, because if this is my starting lineup, Jim Rice is my righty off the bench.
Yep.
At least my first righty off the bench. Now, depending on how deep you get, with pitchers hitting, you'll have, opportunities to pinch hit. But Tony C's not getting any starts, and he's barely getting any at bats. But Dom DiMaggio is playing that 8th and 9th in the outfield every game for me on this roster. So I'm throwing that out there. I'm interested that you have Roger Clemens on the Red Sox, and I don't disagree with it, because he was unhittable with the Red Sox. He was dominant with the Red Sox, but just so many people remember him as a D-bag Yankee that, I get that. And Johnny Lester, I think could have been literally toss a coin, Red Sox or Cubs.
And he was one of the, again, last guys last year where the reason I put him on the Red Sox is he threw his no-hitter against Kansas City, I want to say, in 2006 or 7.
Okay.
And I was at a Chattanooga Lookouts game that night, and I had a radio with me, and that game just happened to be on ESPN radio that night. And I was listening to the end of Lester's no-hitter. So for me, my memory is Lester as a Red Sox because of that night.
Right. And I'll always think of him as a Red Sox. He won the World Series. He battled through cancer. To me, he'll always be a Red Sox. I remember being at a Sunday night baseball game at Wrigley where the Red Sox were at the Cubs, and he was still pitching for the Red Sox at the time.
Yeah.
You mentioned Mo Vaughn, and Big Poppy's got to be there. I mean, he's just one of the most feared hitters ever. But Mo Vaughn's one of my favorite players. I mean, Mo Vaughn, had he never left Boston, I think he would have been Big Poppy. I think he would have stayed in shape. Not great shape, but good enough shape. And I just think he would have had that career. I think he would have had the Jim Thome type, David Ortiz type career. And he just he went for the money, and it went the wrong way for him. But I love having him as my lefty off the bench. But then you have Devers on the bench, and I'm assuming Carney Lansford is an A.
You know what? So I was going to address this later, but I'll answer it now. Yeah. The question actually came up earlier today, and I think it's a common question that I actually love answering. There are, and this might sound like a cop-out answer, there are specific players for each franchise that aren't on rosters only because each year I want to add 2 or 3 to kind of make a, quote, free agent splash.
Okay.
So one example is Cy Young. Cy Young is not in the Utopian baseball universe because come December, I want to give one of the bottom 8 teams in pitching this year a Christmas gift.
Got it.
Say, okay, if you're a Texas Rangers fan and they took 8th place, and this is just an example, I hope I'm not alienating Rangers fans now, but if you take a team that finishes in 8th place and you're thinking what can I look forward to in 2022? Right. I can, on December 23rd, say, breaking news, Cy Young is a Texas Ranger.
Signs as a free agent, huh?
Exactly. So what I'm doing is I'm purposely leaving off, 10 or 12 names so that because I want this to grow in 10, 15, 20 years of this. At some point, if you're a Milwaukee Brewers fan, and you don't see Corey Hart, and you love Corey Hart, I can point to a year maybe down the road where offensively they're not getting as much production from the outfield positions, and I can say help is on the way. Corey Hart is Utopian baseball universe in 2000.
Interesting.
There's so many names, and Carney Lansford's one of those names.
Okay.
I can't get Lansford at bats over Boggs or Devers. I've got 2 solid third basemen in Oakland in Home Run Baker and Matt Chapman.
Okay.
So it's tough, but
it's a numbers game. I get it.
I want to keep it interesting so that if a player was on a roster last year and he's not this year, it doesn't mean he's out of the universe. It just means he's not on the roster this year.
Just means he might be in AAA. He didn't make it. He's in Nashville.
He's
in Pawtucket, even though the Sox are in Worcester this year. I'm never going to say Worcester. Worcester is now Pawtucket.
It's weird. It is.
Yeah.
But yeah, the rosters is the hardest part, but I think at the same time, I think it's the most enjoyable part because it is so fluid.
Yeah. Tim wants to know no Derek Lowe. And I know, I guess when I look at Scott Williamson, I would vote for Derek Lowe over Scott Williamson. To me, Scott Williamson, didn't he come up as a Red? And then he went over to the Red Sox. Papelbon I loved. Mendez is a great addition to the team. Folk, Ujihara, Bob Stanley was an all-timer. So is Dick Raditz. Bob Stanley I never liked, but I get it. He's an all-time Red Sox. But Derek Lowe, Derek Lowe won every clinching game in 2004. He won the DS, and he was kind of that guy who wasn't in the starting rotation or was the forgotten guy. He was a closer sometimes. He threw a no-hitter. He's the one who, A-Rod knocked the ball out of his hand. Derek Lowe's a special guy in Red Sox lore. And so I might throw and because he's a perfect bullpen guy because he can spot start, he can close, and he could pitch 6 innings. If your starter can only go 2, he can be your long guy too.
So this is exactly why I have fans of the team on the show, is to kind of keep the creator in check. But I will tell you, I can't prove it to you right now because I can't do a screen share. You're going to hear the name Derek Lowe and you're going to hear the name Tim Wakefield at some point.
Yeah, Wakefield.
Red Sox jersey.
Nice.
In years to come. It might not be this year. But, for other Red Sox fans watching tonight, how exciting would it be if on January 3rd, 2022, I said, I just got a text from Buster Olney that said Tim Wakefield is coming to Boston.
Oh, I would lose it. That'd be awesome. So my 2 big changes for opening day, and maybe this shows my generation because I'm a 90s guy.
Yeah.
And 2000, the 2004 team, obviously, even without Nomar. But Nomar in for Xander, and I'd have Pedro over Smokey Joe Wood. I can't. The Nomar one I probably feel more strongly about. The Pedro one's more like an emotional thing. Like I said, I don't want him to feel like the organization is disrespecting him. For me, Nomar, I know his career derailed, but for a while, you could argue he was as good, if not better, than Jeter and A-Rod. You could not pitch to Nomar just the same way you could not pitch to A-Rod. Nomar was getting on base. He had 372. I don't know what his on base was that year, but he was getting on. He was getting to you. He was working you for 13 pitchers. He was grinding. He was adjusting the batting gloves. And I just think now I'm not going to put up a fight for Spike Owen. Spike Owen also one of my favorite, though I'd probably have him on the Mariners, not on the Red Sox, but one of my favorite. And I think that's because when I was 10 years old in 86 and he was the shortstop and I played shortstop in Little League. So
nice.
So I always liked Marty Barrett and Spike Owen.
Well, and again, I want to make the point too, that if you're not seeing a favorite on opening day, it does not mean that they're going to get less at bats at that position. Because what's going to happen is Bogarts is starting Friday. Let's say he goes 0 for 4 and then he goes 0 for 3 Saturday, and Nomar gets a start Sunday and he hits a homer. Nomar's the guy. He's the hot hand.
That's right.
And fans, we've been doing these votes. We've done 3 of them now. We did who's going to be the closer in Cleveland, who's going to be the 5th in Florida, who's going to be the 5th in Chicago. During the season, this is going to be interactive too. So I don't know if you remember this, Mitch. Last year we did a number of games. We would stream games on Xbox.
Oh, of course, yep.
Every time I did the Red Sox, because I knew you were going to be watching, Mo Vaughn was playing first.
I love it.
Every time. So,
and listen, I love David Ortiz as well.
Yeah.
I would give him a hug right now, but I loved Mo Vaughn as well.
There's going to be, so what's going to happen, just to let people watching know the interactive piece of this, if let's say, and again, I'll just use the roster we have in front of us here. If John Lester starts the season 1-6 with an ERA in the low sevens.
Trade him to the Cubs.
They
deserve him.
The Utopian baseball universe is going to have say in who comes up, Buckholtz or Hurst. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love that.
Or if again, Ted Williams is going to be in left field for as long as I'm doing this. But
he has to be.
If Yaz struggles or if Ramirez struggles and Rice gets some starts. And by the way, I want to piggyback on your point earlier. Yeah, Tony C. Last year only had about 30 starts.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, basically like once a week he would get a start for Ramirez or possibly Yaz. But because we don't have a DH, these guys are used quite frequently for pinch hitting.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So, Rice is always going to be that first option off the bench. But you have a game in the 12th inning. There was a game last year where Tony C. hit a walk-off 2-run double. Bases were loaded. They were down 1. Tony C. came up as a pinch hitter, won the game. So by me not having Garcia Parra in the lineup on opening day, it does not mean that he's not going to get starts. And he could, by mid-April, take that job over. It's all chance, basically.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to throw out, I know we already mentioned Mike Greenwell, but I'll throw out Ellis Burks there as well. Just based on, and Tony Armas too. Like, but that's the thing. Like, you can get into these teams and you could go 10 outfielders deep on pretty much every team that's been around since the turn of the century. If a team's been around since 1910, 1920, you could go 10 out. To me, Ellis Burks, Mike Greenwell, Tony Armas, all could contribute to teams in this league.
And that's part of the beauty of like the Expos and the Bulls, because all of the guys that didn't quite make the rosters on the other teams are stars in Durham and are getting a chance to compete in Montreal. Like Durham's starting center fielder is Carlos Beltran. He's, I can't put him on the Mets because of 06, because of that curveball he looked at.
I know, I get it.
Dwight Evans, my God, he's amazing. But I wanted to get Dwight Evans at bats, and I thought it was a better fit for Durham than to play over Williams or Ramirez or Yastrzemski. So there's always going to be somewhere else to play, right? And with having that fluidity going forward, if I missed anyone this year, there's a very good chance that we'll bring him in next year.
Awesome.
I'm going to try to get to now. You addressed a lot of the comments. I'm going to try to get to some of the questions maybe we didn't get to real quick.
Okay.
I'm not going to address any of the audio issues because we fixed that.
Yeah.
Brian Pelletier.
It's okay. Don't worry about it. It's okay.
So Andy says Wade Boggs, what a hitter. Yes. Someone says 92 Brewers were good. Yeah, 92 was so much fun.
Yeah.
That was Molitor's last year here, right? And Yount's second.
No, Yount was still here. Molitor was on the Blue Jays by then.
No, didn't Molitor debut in 93?
I thought he was on that Blue Jays team that maybe I'm wrong.
Because he won it, the Blue Jays won it in 92 and then signed Molitor.
Oh, you're right. That's right. Yep, that's right. 92 was Listash.
That's right. And then I think Yount had his 3,000th hit in 92.
That was 93 because that was off of Mesa over Carlos Baerga's head in September 93.
I'm going to double check that because I was because I think Yount played another season after he got the hit and he retired in 93.
Oh, you're right. It was 92. Yep. It was September 92.
I actually I was there.
I was there.
I was a vendor at County Stadium from 92 to 94. And when he got the hit, I looked behind me and I'm going to forget his name. Tim Van Voren and John Anderson were in the old County Stadium where the press could kind of be like kind of near the dugouts, like right above the cameras. And I looked behind them and I just said, all right, screw it. And I gave Van Voren a high five and John Anderson a high five, and I stopped selling for the night. I'm like, I'm done.
Yeah, that's great. So Tim wrote Bill wrote Dwight Evans had a serious hose, and how he's got, and now that he's guarding the giant bull in right field. I remember there was an All-Star game where Tim Raines was on third base, and there was a fly ball to right, and he did not tag up on Dwight Evans.
That's
just amazing. Like that was the respect that everybody had for it. Now, it was an All-Star game, and he probably didn't want to have a collision and get hurt either. But like that was the respect for Dwight Evans, and it was like it wasn't a shallow. I mean, I don't think he was on the warning track, but it was a deep fly to right, and he did not tag up.
Interesting. Someone mentions that they were at opening day in '87 versus the Sox, 5-1. Teddy Aguirre. Brewers ended up sweeping the Sox. That was the year they won 13 straight.
That's right, 87.
87.
George Webb's.
The thing that surprised me the most when I went to Fenway was how far up right field Pesky's pole is, literally like putting the foul pole 75 feet closer to home plate. Yeah,
it's unbelievable.
It's like what, dude?
But like it directly goes straight out. Like you can wrap it around that pole, but if you don't wrap it around that pole, right field is ginormous in Fenway.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Well, they had to fit the stadium in the neighborhood. So it's like, they didn't just build it in the middle of a parking lot. It fits in the neighborhood.
Let's see here. So someone has a question. Who is better, Lynn or Rice? Who would you like to face least? I guess if you were a pitcher.
I think,
Rice.
You think what?
I would say Rice was better. I mean, Lynn came out of the gate, rookie of the year, MVP in 75.
Well, let's slow our roll on that. The racial climate in Boston and in the country was a little different in 1975. So did Fred Lynn win those fair and square? Is kind of you go to Boston and have that argument, you could be talking about that for hours. But I think both of them at their peak were unpitchable. I mean, you couldn't pitch to them, but I just think it was scarier pitching to Rice because he just hit the ball a ton.
Yeah.
I mean, he was hitting 450-foot home runs like they were nothing.
Yeah. So Andy says that my phone contacts are just a who's who of baseball managers. Yeah.
You got Joe Cronin.
Look, I got Connie Mack.
Unbelievable. You got Casey Stengel. I got Casey
Stengel managing the Bulls, baby.
Unbelievable. Love it.
Let's see. What else do we got here? So I want to address this point here. Another snub for the Spaceman. So I told Mitch this earlier today. I did such a poor job last year building the bullpens. And I tried to rectify a little bit of it this year. But again, I can assure you, if you're patient and stick with me, Bill Lee is going to be a member of the universe because he's just such an interesting character. He's one of the MVPs of the Ken Burns documentary. Right. And he will be there. We might even have a contest, Mitch, where you want Bill Lee on your team. We're going to vote for that maybe in December.
I love it. Yeah, and I think that's great, and I think that's what the Utopian Baseball universe is all about. Is like you can't just, like you said, you don't just put the 30 best guys on every roster and go. It's you got to make sure it's a roster that makes sense and that leaves room for growth and for building and for discussion. And I think that's what you've done here.
I mean, and another thing too, it just can't be a mirror image of what we know in the major leagues, because I think that would get boring. If you were a member of this universe for 30 years and I told you that the Yankees had 10 championships, the Cardinals had 8, that's boring, I think. So right. I think the way we're presenting it now, it's going to give Tampa Bay fans hope. It's going to give Texas Rangers fans hope. Montreal Expos. I joined the Expos group last week. We've got 3 or 4 fans in here right now. They have nothing to root for now.
Right.
But now,
they can watch the UBU, baby. That's right.
Exactly. So I think we hit most of the comments from earlier.
Yeah, we did. Somebody asked about Carlton Fisk, and he is on the White Sox. Some more love for Bill Lee, and that's great. And it's a lot of fun. Our buddy Bill Johnson says the pinball machine effect to the right field corner at Fenway was unique. Not only that, but also the gate in center. How they have that door in center, and that things pinball in that Bermuda Triangle of center field all the time as well. It's a weird, unique stadium. I would love if they built more stadiums that were crazy. Like I know when Houston put the flagpole in center, it was okay, and then they took it out. But I think it'd be really cool if they just built weird. I mean, there aren't set rules. There aren't parameters. Somebody should be crazy. Do something just whack.
Mitch, do you have time for an extra inning here, real quick?
Real quick, I am up against it, so.
Because all I wanted you to do before we go off the air is just tell us about A Little Thunder.
Oh yeah,
in the morning. Tell us about that.
Absolutely, thanks, Joey. So every morning, Monday through Friday, on Facebook, I have a Facebook page. It's my name, Thunder MKE. I do about 10 to 15 minutes every Monday through Friday. It's a foundation of sports. I do some motivation. I do some wake up. I do some enthusiasm. I talk about what's going on our planet. It's Milwaukee centric, but it's not all Milwaukee. It's a lot of just like, it's stream of consciousness. It's like today I ran out of coffee filters. So I was talking about like who runs out of coffee filters and like when's the last time that happened? And I've gone through more coffee filters in the past 11 months than I usually go through in 3 or 4 years because of how much I'm making my coffee at home, not at the office. So just like stuff like that, like, a lot of pandemic talk, what are you better at? What are you worse at? What have you noticed? And then a lot of sports, a lot of NBA, a lot of Major League Baseball, of course, not as much football because baseball and basketball are my two loves. And I'll talk football if you need me to. I'll talk about JJ Watt. But with baseball coming, there's going to be a lot of baseball talk. There's going to be a lot of life talk. It's just a lot of fun. And we're building friendships. We're building community. And so if anybody wants to jump in, my page is, the Facebook page is Thunder MKE. So Thunder and then the airport code for Milwaukee. You can go to it. You can just go to the page. You can like it if you want, or you can just be an outsider and just watch it if you want to. That would be cool. So give it a shot when you get a chance. It's facebook.com/Thunder MKE. And I look forward to seeing you there. Joey, I know I see you there a lot.
I've never missed a show. I don't see 100% of them live, but I usually get to them within the week. But I have never missed a show. I'm a big fan. I've actually made some friends and some members of this universe I've met through your show.
Absolutely.
I'm going to give Mitch here the last word momentarily, but I want to just really quick invite everyone to come back tomorrow at 7:00 for our Chicago White Sox show. RJ Lesh is going to be my guest. I just met him a couple of days ago. He's been in the group for a while, but he's going to be our guest tomorrow for the Chicago White Sox. But, Mitch, let's end the show the only way you know how to end it, the way you end every show on A Little Bit of Thunder. You know what to do.
All right, everybody, it's that time. It's Monday night. We had a great Monday, everybody. We all ate the frog. Eating the frog means we all got something hard done on our to-do list. Tomorrow's Tuesday. We're going to have our best of 7 list tomorrow. So I'll come up with some crazy question about life, mint ship versus rocky road or something like that. And I'll have the first 7 votes count. It's best of 7, like life, like baseball, like the World Series. So whether you're going to sleep or you're going to work or you're going out to the bar or you're just going to the liquor cabinet to fill up, I got my glass. I had one. I'm about to have number 2 and then read my book and go to bed. What we do is I ask everybody, let's go make kindness contagious, everybody. We all have kindness in us. We all know people who need some more kindness. We all know people who don't live with kindness. So let's put it upon us. Internally, be kind to yourself. Externally, be kind to others. Let's go make kindness contagious. Thunder and Joey B. Out.